Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the S1E12 episode of the first season. And today, as I promised you in a couple of videos ago, today I'm going to cover the toll in blood, one of the most controversial aspects of the Ottoman Empire. So before I address the toll in blood, we have to just go a little bit back in the past. So after the fall of Smederevo's fortress in 1459, 6 years after the fall of Constantinople, now the Serbs have found themselves in a very unpleasant situation where after Smederevo fell, the Turks completely overrun Serbia and started ruling very slowly, bit by bit. But prior to that, there is a context why Smederevo and Constantinople fell in the year difference of just six. So basically, there was this uh, in Florence. There was this like a meeting, a gathering, if you will, where the most respected patriarchs from Russia, from Serbia, and from Greece were summoned to the Pope's place where they will be able to discuss, the current, at the time, political, economical, infrastructure, blah, 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 and the destiny of the people. Now, George Brankovic or Juraj Brankovic had asked the Pope for help since the Ottoman were already now it's 1439 and the Turks are really embedded into the Serbian territories themselves, and George Juraj is now asking the Pope for help, and he's like, I understand we are of the opposing religions when it comes to the Catholicism and Orthodox. We would really appreciate your help for the guns, for the money, and for whichever support you can offer. We will be internally grateful. You will be able to help us. Now, I'm not saying literally that's what George said, but I'm just painting you the picture and the context to the historical sources. So Pope reads this and he goes, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to help you. Of course, yeah, I'm going to send you guns and help you with the economy and stuff and the support, blah blah. On one condition." And you can guess what a condition is: the same ongoing trait that has been going in this Vatican Serbia history. Submit, bend the knee. You have to become Catholic, and then we are going to help you. George Brankovic, now after he receives the reply on WhatsApp, he kind of goes, he sees the messages, the arrows are blue. He goes, sees the message, and he's like, he kind of calculates the opportunities, the long, the distant future of the Serbian people, because he understood the mentality and the Serbian people at the time and the chances. So he's like, he calculates and he goes, yeah, we've got a bigger chance with the Turks. So if you guys convert us, it's GG. So George Brankovic, so this is not what he said, but metaphorically, figuratively, he told him, "Go fuck yourself. I'm gonna jump with the Turk sharks. We've got a bigger chance of survival." Pope, after he receives the "go fuck yourself" response from WhatsApp, he gets upset and severely triggered. But nonetheless, if George cannot be bought, his patriarch can be. But this is the plot twist of the Serbian spite, and when we used to use the brain at the time. George tells to his patriarch, if you do anything without my consent, approval, or authority, and you go to Vatican and you do something without my knowledge, I'm gonna fucking hang you on the first oak that I see when you came back to Serbia. When you come back to Serbia. The patriarch is now severely upset because he knows that Juraj meant what he said and he said what he meant. And now he also rejects because he didn't want to hang by the first oak tree that George told him he's going to hang. He refuses, and the fun fact is that Greek and the Russian patriarch actually went to this meeting in Florence without the knowledge of the emperor from Russia and the one in the Greece as well. And that was like a big embarrassment that was heard, but actually over the history it was put under the rug because some things always have to be put under the rug, blah blah blah. You already know the story and the rabbit holes and the icebergs of shifting history, editing history, lying history, blah blah. Now they actually go to that meeting, but it falls through because in order for that complete agreement to be 100% installation of the program, all patriarchs must be present. It's the rule. All gather there except the Serbian patriarch, who was aware that his neck is going to be very red and his face will turn purple if he goes without permission of George Brankovic. The Pope fucking loses his shit, and now Vatican, since 1439, their favorite value when it comes to Serbs is only blood. Hence, toll in blood. In 1512, in 1520, so in that case a context, where in this, sorry, 1420. So in 1420, so this Sultan, his name is Sultan Murad II, implemented the toll in blood. So that means that the younger children, the Serbs or the non-Muslims, were taken away by the Janissaries. Usually the children themselves, they would have to be aged between 4 and 8 or 4 or 10, and they would take away the children and indoctrinate them, turn them into Janissaries so they will be able to serve the Sultan. It's very depressing, one of the most controversial laws that it's not talked about enough. It's only we're aware of it as the people, but in order for us to really address it, like certain topics I mentioned in the previous videos, this one is really, it is what it is. The rules were different at the time. And Ivo Andrić, in his most famous book, The Bridge on Drina, he describes that the parents themselves were, in order for them to protect and keep their children, they would either cut one of the fingers on the legs, and they would actually tell them to play that they are either mute or, not physically, sorry, mentally able to be Janissaries themselves. So the parents would try to, by any means necessary, to protect their children from being taken away by the Turks, to indoctrinate them, turn them into Janissaries, and their memories would be completely erased, so they would no longer recognize you as the original parents of mother and father. Now, children were taken away, and you cannot imagine currently, as if you're watching as a parent, imagine that your child is taken away when he's 7 or 8, and you no longer see him ever again in your life. It goes away, it becomes Turkish, it speaks another language, he serves another sultan, and the small memories that he had as a kid are now completely overrun with the new memories of coming to Istanbul or to whichever parts of the Turkish city. Now the point is that this toll in blood lasted for a while, and the catch 22 is actually that from the 15th to the 17th century, so over accordingly, 200,000, 300,000 kids were taken in this span of century. So usually this was done in the Helm countries. So every 4 years, the kids between 8 and 10 would be taken from their families. I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the parents would seize any opportunity that they could to protect their kids, for them not to be taken away by the Turks, either mutilating their kids, like cutting a finger, or telling them to act. They're like pretending or acting to be Benji Compson from Sound and the Fury. If you read that book, you get the picture. Now, this really affected the Serbian population and its history because, as I mentioned, 200,000 and 300,000 in the span of 2 centuries. That's one entire city being wiped out from your memory and from your history. And now the Serbs under the Ottoman Empire, have suffered really a lot, and that history as well has been edited heavily because, according to the second Serbians and the other people who didn't live there and that they didn't believe the original sources, kind of figured out that the Serbs themselves under Ottoman, they actually lived well. Like a comparison for Yasenos, it wasn't done terrible living under Ottoman. Chill out, spa session, Netflix and chill, stuff like that, which is actually the opposite. Did you know that the Serbs, if they decided to live in the cities and pay the taxes to the Ottoman Empire, they were not allowed to wear men clothing? Usually not the light ones. Like, for example, this for me would be forbidden in Ottoman Empire because it's too shiny and it differentiates you to being a man. The guys, men themselves, they would either have to wear neutral color in order for them to be recognized as the inferior, which was their intention from the Ottomans. The Ottomans, like the guys themselves, they were, of course, allowed default to wear whatever they wanted and to be recognized. And even so, that the Serbs in other Ottoman were not allowed to rode male horses. They have to ride female horses, and the Turks only were allowed to ride male horses. So there is a lot of treatment, and this psychology of painting the picture how the Serbs were being seen in the Ottoman Empire. After the so this stolen blood affected Serbian, of course, people and mentality and history and whatnot. And after the liberation in 1912, so that was like a big stone being taken off from your chest. And this entire period, which was caused by a lot of uprisings in Serbia under the Ottoman Empire, the most famous one was in 1804 under George Petrovic Karađorđe, Black George, call him whichever you want. George, and then afterwards the second uprising by Miloš Obrenović, and etc. So it's not like when croissants, the Catholic Serbs love to say they are the rebellions and blah blah blah. Actually, you can never find in history, especially in their edited Skyrim history, they would say, well, gee, golly gee, man, we used to fight. We used to fight against the oppressed. Sorry. Yeah, there were like a roles in the uprising in Herzegovina where the Croats participate. Sorry, the Croats would participate in the liberation. I'm completely being unserious right now, but the point is that the Serbs themselves have given blood, sweat, tears, soil, identity, and anything to be liberated and free again. Now, I keep love to reiterate the 1371, which is the consequences of not taking the state or the mentality of the state seriously. And that was actually the consequences like 16 years later of not taking things seriously came to fruition in 1371, where you were at the top of the hill, and according to the both sources, historical at the River Marica, we for some reason thought that we won in advance. I don't know why we would give that impression, but it reflects in the Serbian sports today when it comes to football and basketball, where when we as the fans, and especially when we go on social media, we fucking go schizophrenic and delirium, and we love to say, give us X country to play with, and then we get eliminated, and now the blame is on them. It's the same pattern, and it's always, there are some things in Serbian history that I do consider that we have not addressed, and they're reflecting into the 21st century as well. As I mentioned in the Partizan Belgrade video of the division has been going on for 670 fucking years, and currently with this, like 2 days from now, it's going to be 1 year anniversary from the tragic fall of the canopy at the Novi Sad. And I do hope that canopy incident has reset, which I fucking love that, because there is this pattern that Serbs love to do when they're being ruled by someone. They love to go into autopilot identity, the same one they had in Transylvania, where they were in the autopilot like 25, 6, 7 years, from 45 to 1970 in the 20th century, and they awoke after a quarter century of a hibernation like a fucking polar bear or brown bear, depending which bears you like. I love bears, you love bears, stuff like that. And now, after 12 years of being ruled by Alhamdulillah, now you have to understand that the Serbs are now awake. And even with the recent incidents in Montenegro, where Serbs saw Turks invading again, and that Serbian code, reset again, because it's really fresh, because the incidents with the church, where Djukanovic tried to alienate the church from the people, and the people reset it again. Serbs, you have to reset my people from time to time, because they tend to go into autopilot and not think for themselves. With that incident of the church in 2020, Djukanovic fell, and now this random guy is now leading the country of Montenegro. I don't even know what his name is. I don't give a fuck. But point is that it was recently, like 5 years ago. And 5 years ago in Serbian timeline, chronological timeline, it's very fresh. It's recently. So they themselves cannot really go again into autopilot mode. So now they're aware. And now with this incident, when a Serbian guy got stabbed in Montenegro, yeah, Montenegros are Serbs. I don't have to repeat that 5 plus 5 are 10, so don't bother me with that communist shit. And now they're protesting and they're telling Turks to go fuck away, which I'm proud of because Serbs have now fucking finally remembered their history. They remember their history. They remember what happened. Thank fucking God. Took you. No, it didn't took you long enough, but I'm glad. I'm glad the reset button was turned on very quickly. I'm proud of that. Thank you, Serbs. You're awake. Thank you. Otherwise, you turn into autopilot and you go retarded mode. Glory to Christ. Thank you, God, you saved us 50,000 times. I don't think you're going to have one for 50,000 time one. But anyway, the effects and the consequences of the Ottoman Empire has reflected in the 21st century because the Serbs are still carrying some, not just division, but entire style of inferiority or being compared to or anything of that nature. When after the liberation, we finally had this liberation era, but then we went to the Balkan Wars in order for territories. I'm talking about the Second Balkan War. In the First Balkan War, we got rid of the Turks when we united with Romania, Greece, Montenegro, Macedonia, Sorabendia, and we told Turks to fuck off finally. Now, in the Second Balkan War, there was this like a WrestleMania main event between Serbs and Bulgarians. We beat them at Bregalnica from June 30th, 1913, all the way to July 6th or 7th, 1913, where we actually told them that the territories that we won in the First Balkan War were ours. Nema ljutiš. It's the rule of the war when of war loot. So when you conquer a territory, it's yours because we did it. We liberated Macedonia because we had not liberated Macedonia. The northern Macedonians would have been still talking Turkish and pretending it's 20th century. You're welcome. But of course, the Serbs are always the bad guys, the evil villains, the evil Srbochetniks. And this picture of the toll in blood shows what can happen if you allow tyrant to rule over you without any repercussions, because the Serbs who didn't want to live in the cities and pay taxes and to be allowed for Turks to fuck their wives, they had gone back to the mountains and became outlaws, or hajduci. One of my favorite books from Branislav Nušić, I highly recommend it. Hajduci, or in brackets, outlaws, were a group of people who lived in the mountains, and they had people who helped them survive the winter, like from 8th of November till 6th of May, Mitrovdan, Hajdučki rastanak, Đurđevdan, Hajdučki sastanak, na. The famous Serbian holidays that are very celebrated in Serbia, Mitrovdan, which falls on November 8th, and Đurđevdan, which is like Slava for gypsies, but you know, it's kind of the tradition on the May 6th that the Hajduks would gather themselves again because it's warmer and they can get to kill Turks and do guerrilla warfare again. So this entire identity shaped the Serbs. And after they went to the 20th century, after this stolen blood had lasted for 2 centuries, it affected greatly. But the thing is that that should not ever happen again, because if we let tyrants do that shit again, we are going to be GG otherwise. And if we are united and if we keep remembering who we are, because sometimes, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you have to reset my Serbian oxes because they can go, they tend to, like they did in Czechoslovakia, they can go into moo, act like that, and without knowing who is trying to kill them, and just push them off the cliff. Now, in the 20th century, we paid the prices that we shouldn't have paid in the first place. I'm not talking about Balkan Wars, not even the First World War One, because Gavrilo Princip did a good thing. He killed the tyrant. Because according to the second Serbians, if Gavrilo Princip had not killed Franz Ferdinand, we would have been living in some utopia country where we would have been the esteemed members of the European society, and we would particulate in a certain vocabulary, a young man, a young Wörter, and then we would become the esteemed, highly sophisticated members of Europe. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the tyrant is going to allow you to be a free man in his own country. You guys from Second Serbia, from Krug Dvojke, you guys don't read history enough. And the history that you read in Berlin, Vienna school, you guys need medication. So S1E12, this way, as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm finishing my season. The next one will be in November, starting fresh of the second season. Now you're probably going to ask, what should we expect in the second season? I'm going to say retrospection. I'm just going to keep you intrigued. Retrospection will be done in second season, where I'm going to revise and explain to you as a Serbian the faults and the good sides and the bad sides of my people, the Ox people. I mean, technically, Serbs can be the combination of oxes and cats. When it comes to oxes, I'm talking about their brains, so they love to just be on Ispasha or somewhere in the mountains and do nothing. Or when it comes to society itself, they tend to be like cats. They don't like to be bothered by anyone, and they only come when they want to come to the tavern and just talk about how they stole Egypt from us, or how the Romans and us fought against the Arabs in 636 AD. So thank you once again for coming. The reflection of the Ottoman Empire can be seen in Ivo Andrić's works. So if I've never read The Bridge on Drina or anything worthy of reading in quality levels of the books, Ivo Andrić all the time. Yeah, it can be boring, but if you wanna get understanding and the grasp of Serbian mentality, Turkish mentality, The Bridge on Drina, or The Island of Meša Selimović, Derviš Smrt, whichever you prefer. Or if you want to understand the communists, kako su, kad su cvetale tikve by Dragoslav Mihajlović. If you want to see the censorship comrade of communism from Tamil. Until the second season starts, Christ is King, believe in yourself, tell people to go fuck themselves, become straight edge, and once again, be free. Because if Serbs are not free, they will have to re-win their freedom over and over and over